We are Gold Ivy.
Our mission is to empower you to own and unleash your truth.
Stories of resiliency are gold, and ivy grows in hard places.
Those hard places are what create space for light to shine through.
You decide what works for your daily life and how to transform our lessons into your gold.
This is Ivy Unleashed,
a Gold Ivy production. Brooke, what do you think everyone wants more of?
Energy.
What do you think most people are hoping to come out of 2023 with?
Feel more confident, be an example for others, actually have the self-discipline to take care of themselves.
Yes, exactly. Because we hear the need for it and we want to help you get in the best shape of your life, we created Move with Gold Ivy, our virtual workout platform.
Our dream has been to create accessible, affordable, and effective workouts that you can do anytime, anywhere, designed to hold you accountable and get you the results you need.
You can pick any workout you want at any time, but if you do want a plan that alternates muscle groups and leaves your body feeling energized and strong, we have a weekly plan that you can follow to take the guesswork out.
It's easy to navigate and packed with all kinds of workouts that will help you strengthen, trim, pump up, tone, energize, de-stress, all of the things we want our body to feel. It's within Move.
Don't forget to mention the resources we offer. As a member of Move with Gold Ivy, you'll be a part of our exclusive Ivy League community, where we share our top wellness resources on things like meal planning, gut health hacks, time management, and more.
And because you listen to the Ivy Unleashed podcast, we want to offer you all of this for only $20 a month, cheaper than any monthly membership you'll find.
Not only that, you'll get a free trial week to test it out.
And if you need more incentive to start prioritizing you, here's our favorite part. Your movement matters. Each month, 10% of your membership will be donated to support the mental health of those in need.
So head on over to goldivyhealthco.com/move or find the link within the show notes of this episode and sign up today. Stop putting yourself in the back burner. Snag your spot and reap the benefits that you deserve to feel this year.
It's your time. Move for your health, move for your confidence, move for your mental clarity, move with Gold Ivy.
Welcome back to Ivy Unleashed. Thank you for joining us. We are so excited to wrap up this month of February with an author, Tara Renze. Welcome to Ivy Unleashed.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Of course. You're one of those people that we run across your page and everything looks so beautiful and the way that you speak is beautiful and so inspiring. And then we realized you wrote a book, so we ordered your book. And so we want to talk about Be Who You Came to Be. Thank you, first of all, for writing this book. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I just have to ask right off the bat, how did you find my page? You found me on Instagram.
Yeah, it came across, I wonder if it's just from someone else we followed. Maybe we follow similar people. And I'm not exactly sure who the specific connection was, but you had this beautiful gold theme.
And we kind of like gold here.
Well, that's kind of the power of Instagram, right? You never know who you're going to reach. And I know sometimes that media just gets so overwhelming and it feels like you're just doing, and you just don't know. But I mean, the truth is you never know who you might inspire and shine some light on. So I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in your book, you were talking about, visualizing writing this book and whose hands it would end up in. And you were visualizing seeing people share it on Instagram. And as I'm taking a picture of it in the airport, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Tara's dream come true, which is so cool to think about that you had an idea to write this book and you actually did it. So I feel like we should talk about what is that like to have this idea, to have this dream, to write a book and you actually make it happen.
Yeah. Writing this book, definitely, it's one of my proudest accomplishments in life, just because it took a lot of guts, a lot of vulnerability. I mean, to put your words on ink and paper, publish it, and then sell it, right? And be like, this is worth it. Buy this book. It just takes a lot. It just takes a lot. And I will tell you that, as you read in the intro, I mean, I tried to write this book for so many years. I grew up working in the corporate world, in sales and sales leadership. And then I moved into social selling, which was still even though, we were independent, it was still it felt always very corporate driven from the trainings that you get and when people pour into you and the books that you read. And I've always considered myself a lifelong learner and have stacks and stacks of business books, self-help books, personal, personal and professional development. And so I kind of had this notion that I needed this like super businessy type book. And I kept trying to write the book. And every time I would write it, I would just be like, this sucks. And I would just throw it in the trash and start over and over and over. And it wasn't until I finally gave myself permission to say, hey, you know what? You write the book that you want to write, like intrinsically the book that's already written inside of your soul, like put that on paper. And so once I finally gave myself permission, one, to write the book specifically and directly to women, that was the biggest first step for me. But then also to design the book that I wanted to. I wanted it to be pretty. I wanted it to be something that people could leave on a coffee table and, put a candle on and pick it up every now and then. I wanted there to be quotes and it to be really highly designed and just kind of that more conversational approach. So I think for me, that was, the biggest thing. And that's what I always tell anyone who's writing a book, like stop trying to write books for other people and write the book that you want to write.
That's powerful. And within it is self-discovery, right? It's a book about personal development. It's what we do. So I'm curious why you chose to write that topic. What within it inspired you and really made you say, okay, I'm going to be a self-help author?
Yeah. So, I do joke that there was times in my life where I was like, oh, I had a lot of success in sales and leadership. Maybe I should write a book around that. But, I always say like, I didn't choose this topic. This topic chose me. And I was really, really close to my grandmother on my dad's side of the family. And her and I just had this just beautiful relationship. I was the first girl in 4 generations. So I joke that I was raised by my grandmother, my mom, and a pack of men because I have all brothers. And now it's so interesting because I am a boy mom. I have all boys in my house. But so Dot and I called her Dot. We always were really close because, I was this girl, this first girl in her life and in everyone in that side of the family's life. And so we were always really close and she always wrote me just a lot of letters. And this was, I grew up in the 80s. So this was even before the internet. And, she didn't even live to go through all of that technology that happened with email and all that. So she always hand wrote letters. And after I had my first son, Ben, she wrote him a letter. She was still alive. She was 87. And it's actually the last letter that I have from her. And it was written a really beautiful note it's in the front of the book. But the last 2 sentences that she wrote was, be who you came to be, love will guide you. Now, as a new mom, those 2 sentences honestly just took my breath away. And I was staring at this little baby who'd only been in the world for a week. And I was thinking like, gosh, who are you? And who did you come to be? And it's going to be so amazing to be your mom and to watch your life and your authenticities and your gifts and your talents unfold. And to really just get to see that firsthand. And that feeling as a mother is pretty extraordinary. And I started sharing this letter with people. She wrote, be who you came to be. And it was one of those like simple yet profound sentences that people would be like, huh, be who you came to be. And then people started thinking like, okay, well, who did I come to be? And I think especially as women, we start losing ourselves in life. And it's like we think that, oh, we turn 18, we get out of the house, you go to work or you go to college, and then you start your career, maybe you start a family. And it's like you think, oh, I should have it all figured out. Like I should have arrived. Like this is it, right? This is what I should be doing. And the truth is, you're never going to get to a certain point in life and just coast till the end. There's always a chance for an up level. And be who you came to be means that who you were isn't who you are today, isn't who you came to be. And we've got to continue to grow, change, and evolve and to go all in on ourselves and to not play small in life. And so it's just such a great permission slip, I think, especially for women, to know that there's so much left in your life to achieve and do, and you're only just getting started.
I love that. I love that so much because it doesn't matter what age you are. Like brings me to tears to think about somebody hearing what you just said, because a lot of people feel like, well, now I'm an empty nester. Like, what is my life now? But it's like, it's just the beginning. Every day you have that chance. And I think sometimes though, thinking about be who you came to be when you're in survival mode is kind of tough to think about, right? But when you have that chance, I think like, I'm unhappy or I'm not satisfied. Who did I come to be? Like, what does that mean for me? And so we love how you say, create, own, and live the life you deserve. It's so powerful. So we would love for you to just speak on that and how you deliver that message to your audience.
It's really interesting just to see how the whole message has continued to evolve, right? I mean, it's
Mhm.
who I came to be and who I continue to come to be. And it was actually, I had been keynote speaking and sharing the Be Who You Came to Be message for 5 years before I wrote the book, before I finally got exactly the message the way I wanted it in writing. And so creating it was always the first part of, how do you do this, right? Because it's enough to tell someone be who you came to be and they're like, okay, I'm ready. Like, let's go. And so then you have to say, okay, well, here's how you're going to do it. And so creating it, I think, goes back to what you just said, which was sometimes when we're in survive mode, we think, how can I get past this? Like right now, I'm just trying to get through the day. Like I am going through the emotions. And especially, when I think so many women, when hard things are going on in life, whether that be personal struggles, health struggles, career struggles, I think with every new chapter, I remember when I became a new mom, like being a mom is the best thing that I've ever done, but it was also incredibly challenging for me personally as someone who was a career focused woman. It was very taxing on my marriage, all of these things, right? So you're kind of like, how do we do this? Like, how can I be who I came to be when I just feel like I'm holding on by a thread? And I realized just through some, personal journeys, and it was actually through a grief journey that I went on. I lost my dad unexpectedly when I was 37 to a pulmonary embolism, and it just completely shattered my life and drained all amounts of happiness from me. And it was at that point in time in my life that I was just so focused on like, I just want to be happy. I just want to create happy, do happy, happy, happy. That was my mission, right? I wanted a happy house. I wanted happy kids. I wanted a happy husband. I wanted happy colleagues. And so here I was like running this freaking unicorn farm. And the truth was, I mean, it was pretty happy, but I was also pretty exhausted.
Mhm.
And then when my dad died, it took any bit of happiness and it drained it. And I kept telling myself, like, just be happy, just show up, just be happy, just go. And what I realized is the grief and this hard grief in life couldn't, like, the happiness couldn't compete. And this is when we're in like survive mode, right? Like, we're just trying to hold on. And I had this major epiphany that how we actually create genuine happiness and success is by focusing on what's really fulfilling in our lives. And if you think about the most fulfilling things in your life, they're actually not easy things. They're actually probably pretty hard things. Things that you have to really go all in on, where you're going to have to be vulnerable and you're going to have to be patient and kind and tenacious and daring, and you're going to have to go the extra mile, whether that be a relationship that's really fulfilling, whether that be work that's really fulfilling. It's not going to be easy, but it's always going to be worth it. So anyway, you have to be all those things. And it was at this point in life when I was in this grief journey that I had this major epiphany of living fulfilled. And I realized that, hey, it's the fulfilling things that actually create those epic moments of happiness and success. And I started first off thinking about, being in this dark grief. One, I wasn't happy, right? I was really fulfilled at that point in my life. One, because I had a 37-year relationship with my dad that was everything. It was totally unshakable. He was the light of my life. We loved so openly. There was nothing left unsaid. And that was so fulfilling. And I can tell you, 7 years later, it still feels just as fulfilling. During that grief journey, even though I was in a really dark spot, I had family and friends and people just pouring love into me, which felt so fulfilling. And so, yeah, I started thinking about everything I've done in my life, the most fulfilling things, and that those are the things that have created epic moments of happiness and success and have allowed me to be who I came to be. And so I think that that's how we create it, is we just have to stay focused on, is this fulfilling? I joke that I've been married for, I guess, almost 22 years here in March. And although we haven't always been happy, like our marriage is deeply fulfilling. Together we've created this amazing life together. And so I think that's really the key to creating it, is focusing on what's fulfilling in your life, not what makes you happy and not what's easy.
I love that, because you think about happiness, right? It's an emotion, and to think that we're always happy, how exhausting is that? You're just chasing these high moments. You're not making room for the whole human experience. And so finding that fulfillment, and it's different for everyone. It forces you to be your authentic self, because what fulfills me isn't going to be what fulfills you. I think a lot of women who are caretakers or, achievers, it's hard for them to take a step back and say, am I fulfilled? And what does that look like? So I'm curious, Tara, how did that process start for you when you had that realization? Like, was it journaling? Like, what did that self-reflection and discovery really look like to identify what fulfills you?
I think that a lot of it for me has just been, over time, like you'll start to realize what's fulfilling in your life and what's worth going all in on. We don't walk away, we don't leave fulfilling things behind. We don't, because they stem from love, and whether that be our passions for our work and what we can give, the gifts are the gifts we give to the world through career and our talents, or love and the people that we love and the people who are most important to us. So I think, it's one of those things, you just start getting mindful of it. Next time you're having a bad day, at the end of, a day, if you have little kids and you felt like all you've done is clean up, change diapers, clean up messes, and you're just holding on by a thread. Yeah, you might not be happy. You're probably really exhausted and maybe even frustrated, but you have to be like, is this fulfilling? And I promise you, your heart will swell with love and fulfillment, because you'll be like, gosh, there's really nothing more fulfilling than raising these children right now. And so I think it's really mindfulness of, being mentally fit and understanding that emotional intelligence really does play a huge part in this, and that we're not our thoughts, we're how we choose to show up, and putting that mental switch on of when things are tough, asking, is this fulfilling? And, if you're doing something that isn't fulfilling and it's stressing you out, stop doing it. Start saying no to stuff that isn't fulfilling to you in life.
Yeah, I think that's important, because sometimes you feel like, well, I should be getting a lot more fulfillment from raising my kids. But, I was a stay-at-home mom for almost 2 years, and I wasn't getting fulfilled. I was feeling like just something was missing. And I feel like she could have a better experience part-time somewhere else. And at that point, that's what it was. It was part-time. And it was like, I just need somebody else to teach her something, for me to have a break, for me to make money, for me to like be helping more people. I don't know. I didn't know, but I knew that I wasn't feeling super fulfilled. And I think sometimes, especially as women, it's hard to admit that when you've seen so many caretakers, so many selfless women that give to their children, and you're like, shit, that's not me. And you have to be honest. I had to be really honest, because my husband was like hoping that's what I would want to do. And I was like, it's not what I want to do. So being honest can be tough.
100%. And you do have to be honest. And here's the thing, like what you guys just said was like, hey, what's fulfilling to me might not be fulfilling to someone else. And I was very much the same way after I had my children, that, being a quote unquote stay-at-home mom wasn't fulfilling enough for me, because there was something else that I wanted. And, what was interesting is I idolized and envied my friends who loved being at home and loved, all of the things that they were doing, and could really pause their career to make that their priority. And, in total transparency and vulnerability, I thought, God, am I a shitty mom? Like, does it make me a bad person that I actually want to work outside the home? And the answer is no. Like, we are all unique and individuals that have, and different things make us tick. And just because it works for someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And like I always said, you didn't come to be more like her. You came to be you. And we are all different. And we really have to honor our authenticity, as well as give other women the space for their authenticity, and that we're not judging them and, thinking they should be more like us or we should be more like them. And unfortunately, women continue to do this. And, maybe the more we talk about it, we can actually finally put an end to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I love what you said too in the book, just about like noticing the girl that is so funny. So you talk in the book about seeing someone in the airport that's wearing like something super flashy. I get on a plane, the chick across the aisle, my mom points out to me, has these gold rhinestone boots on. I'm like, this is what Tara's talking about. Compliment the chick, and know, like, maybe those boots aren't for you, but good for her for owning who she is and listening that she wanted to wear those flashy boots. And I feel like that's something beautiful in your book, that it's to own who you are so we can all show up authentically. So when I tell you I'm not getting fulfilled from being a stay-at-home mom, there's no judgment. It's like, your friends should want you to be happy and celebrate that you're exploring that. It's going to make you a better parent. It's going to make you a better partner. And so I think the truth really sets you free. It might be tough to say. It might be tough to even discover what your truth is. And so that's what's nice about this book, is to help you kind of figure out, what is that truth? What is calling me?
Well, and that goes into the second part of it, which we talked about, creating it by focusing on fulfilling it. But what's fulfilling, and it's kind of just moved us right into owning it, which is, you didn't come to be more like her. You came to be you. And you have to own who you are, what your priorities are in your life, the life that you want to create for yourself. And then, like I always say, stop comparing yourself to other women and start admiring them and saying like, hey, gosh, I'm here in sweats, but gosh, good for her for wearing those kick-ass gold boots on the airplane. Like, I love that. Like, I love that go big or go home mentality versus like, make you feeling like, oh my God, I look like such an idiot over here. Why didn't I put this on? Or thinking to her, like, who does she think she is? Like, just let people be who they came to be. And when we can own our own authenticity and once and for all say, hey, for some people, I'm not going to be enough. For other people, I'm going to be too much. And then they're going to be my people. And those are my people, the people that are going to rally around me and support me and love me. At the heart of everything, the world wants you to be a kind, good person. And as long as you're that, you don't have to be for everyone. And, I love thinking about this in the context of music and musicians. I'm a huge an avid music lover. I actually studied music for a while in college. My whole family are all musicians. And I think about music artists, and I think, hey, Garth Brooks is a country music artist, and Elton John definitely had his own swagger and way. And there's people like Miles Davis who were gravitated towards a trumpet out of all, instruments and decided to make a living playing that. And then there's people who came on the scene like Eminem, who is just, this badass white kid from the trailer parks of Detroit who decided to go into Black music and do something completely disruptive. They all owned their authenticity. I mean, imagine if Eminem would have come into the music scene being like, I really have this inside of me that I want to rap, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and do, country music, or maybe I should be more like Elton John. It would have never worked. Like it wasn't who he was. It wasn't who he came to be. And instead he just decided to own it. And he's decided to do something disruptive that worked for him because he was so unique to himself and his talents that other people bought it and they wanted to be part of it and they wanted to celebrate that. And maybe you like Eminem, maybe you don't, but you have to hand it to him for truly owning his authenticity and who he came to be. And I think that's what you do. You have to write your own music every day, and not everybody's going to buy your record, and not everybody's going to like your songs. And some people might think that you're not even good or great, but then there's going to be people who love you and buy every album that you put out and want to go to all of your concerts and buy all your swag and love you and support you and then share you with other people. And so you really have to own it and just know that, hey, you're not going to be for everyone, and that is totally okay.
Yeah. What I'm hearing you say too is like, you have to be okay for yourself. Right. And that comes from being fulfilled, of actually enjoying what you're doing. Because when you're trying to be like Eminem or Elton John or whatever, you're losing track of who you are. And like Andrea's point earlier, I think you can change at any moment, but that's a big shift. Right. And so you, as a businesswoman, as a mom, like you've made major shifts. And so I'm curious how you determine that it is time to change your focus, your career, your fulfillment. Like, how do you know to take that chance and to make that change?
I always tell women, I'm like, like you just, right? People are like, how do I know? I'm like, and they're like, I don't know. I'm like, in your heart of hearts, you do know. And I think, first off, I am not a 24/7 hustle proponent. I think that type of lifestyle is absolutely ridiculous. I don't think it's why we're all on here on earth, is to bust our ass 24/7 to try to create a career or whatever it is in our lives. Like there's so much more to life. So I'm really all about working in flow, tuning in to like what we're being called to do and where we can truly make impact. But I think that, I look at the different phases of my career where for a long time I climbed the corporate ladder, and I really thought I was going to go into executive leadership with a Fortune 500 company. And I thought, this is what I'm going to do. And then my life changed and I realized it wasn't who I was anymore. I had changed. The work was no longer fun. I didn't feel like myself. I was, in this constant torn battle of what I should be doing. And I just thought, God, this is a really shitty way to live, of just feeling like, I'm not really great at this. I'm not really great at this. I'm not even enjoying any of this. And I'm just feeling lost. And so I think a lot of times when we get to those types of moments where we aren't fulfilled, right? At that point in time, the work wasn't fulfilling anymore. And it wasn't, it wasn't who I came to be. But I also think that we get into times in our lives where we start getting really complacent. And we get complacent again because it's not fulfilling. We just don't really care about it anymore. And so I think that those are two like true signs that, hey, it's time to take a shift. It's time to lean into some fear. It's time to reinvent yourself and to go into that next chapter of who you came to be in your life.
Yeah. And something you talk a lot about too is, 'cause I think the next step involves facing your fears, right? Because if you are going to make a big shift, a lot of times it impacts other people in your circle, in your family, expectations of you. You think you might let people down. And so I love, in your book, you said fear is a sign that you're on the right track. And so can you kind of talk about how fear has played into your life with your shifts and what you've seen with other people in your circle.
Yeah. And so this is the whole live it, right? I mean, you have to start living this every day and just know that, again, you're never going to get to a spot in life and arrive and then just be like, yes, this is, aces the rest of the way. Because there's always a chance for an up level. Life is going to, deal you cards every day that are unexpected. We have to start living it every day. And I think that so many times what happens is we start dreaming bigger for ourselves, right? We start to focus on what is really fulfilling in our lives. We start owning who we are, what we want, our gifts, talents, and we're ready to unleash it on the world. And we start dreaming big. We start putting some stuff out and think, ooh, I really want to do this, or I want to try this, or I want to start this. And what happens is we get really scared. And I call this invitational fear. And this invitational fear is this notion that you've invited this fear in because you're dreaming bigger for yourself. And we confuse this with fear that's like physical fear, right? That's the fear that we understand. And it's like the safety fear of like, oh, don't do that. You could fail. You could, it's not going to work out. And we come up with all these reasons why we shouldn't do it. And then the fear keeps us at bay and we're like, ooh, that's not safe. But the thing is like you don't get scared about shit you don't care about. Invitational fear is the first time that you're on the right track because it shows you care. It shows it's important to you. It shows that you're like, oh my gosh, like this is scary as hell, but man, this feels good. Like I want to do this. So if you haven't set a goal or thought about something in your life for a while that hasn't ignited invitational fear, like you truly are not dreaming big enough for yourself because you should be, a little uncomfortable all the time. What are you doing? What are you thinking about? I'm working on a project right now that's just is out of my comfort zone. Before the podcast today, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I signed up for this podcast right in the middle of this project. I'm feeling a little out there. But the truth is it's because I'm out of my comfort zone. I was so excited about this project. I am so excited about this project, but it's igniting a lot of fear because we want to do our best. We want to win in life. And I think no matter what level you're at, we're learning, we're growing, and we're evolving. And we have to lean into that fear and go towards it. I always say it's use it as your compass. Whatever this invitational fear, follow it because that's where the good is.
I love that. It's such an exciting thought. It kind of makes me want to think like sit down and have a brainstorming session right now with Brooke of like, what are we kind of afraid of that's holding us back? Because, we're business partners. So we come up with goals and numbers and things we want to do. But, we always probably wonder like, is one of us holding each other back from...
I think about that all the time. Are you holding me back? I'm just kidding.
Like, could we be more successful? Could we have bigger dreams, because... Mm-hmm. We're two different people. So I love that kind of using as the compass. Like, let's get a little bit more uncomfortable. Let's dig into this. Like, what are we afraid of? Yeah. And then maybe chase that a little bit.
Yeah. And I think people hearing this, myself included, is like, okay, that's easier said than done, right? Like it's scary. It's hard being out of your comfort zone. So I'm curious, what are some tools and techniques that you use to, okay, this is a sign. I'm going to do it anyway. What helps you get through it?
I think one, just not being afraid to put some like really wild, crazy things out into the universe. In the book, I don't know if you read the chapter about my $100,000. I call it a butterfly goal, and I call it a butterfly goal because right now you're kind of a big fat hairy caterpillar, right? And you have these dreams of becoming this beautiful butterfly, but you think, oh gosh, I am like the big fat hairy caterpillar right now. Like how could I be that? And I always say, like, if you didn't understand the science on how a caterpillar metamorphosizes into a butterfly, you would think it's like hocus pocus baloney, like no way. But you understand what happens is the caterpillar, it eats and eats and eats and eats and eats, and then eventually it wraps itself up in a chrysalis. And while it's in that chrysalis, it actually completely deconstructs itself so it can reemerge as the new, better, more beautiful version of this butterfly. And so many times we don't put those goals out there, the butterfly goals, because they seem so out of reach. And in the book, the $100,000 butterfly goal for me is this goal that, ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be on a national game show. And I grew up in the 80s watching game shows. And I always would tell my brothers, I'm going to be on a game show. I'm going to be on a game show. And you're never going to believe this, but like 30 years of my life went by and nobody was calling me to be like, we heard you had a childhood dream. Like, let's get you on that game show, girl. And so I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to start putting this goal out there big time. And I kept just telling people, like, I'm going to get on a game show. I'm going to be on a game show. And people literally thought I was crazy. Like, you can't just get on like ABC or NBC game show. And so I started applying. I started putting myself out there. And sure enough, I ended up getting cast on $100,000 Pyramid. And it was just one of those moments in my life that I was like, Nobody cares more about your success than you. There's no such thing as too big of a goal, too big of a dream. And if you want it, you got to take action and you got to go get it. You've got to put yourself out there. And whether it takes 6 months, a year, 2 years, like go get it done. And, even now I put really, like I put out, like I already have the name of my next book. It's perfectly flawed. And, at first I was like, oh, I'm going to have that book done in 2023. And I've already reshifted the goal. I'm like, the book is still coming, but it's not going to be done this year. Like, it's just not. And I'm okay with that. The book is still coming. And it wasn't ever like, why did I say that? It was, again, it's putting your fears and these big things that you want to achieve, knowing that you eventually will achieve them. And, for me, I joke that, one of my huge goals, and this is a total butterfly goal, is that someday I have my own talk show. Like, I would love to have my own talk show. And it's never going to happen unless I start putting it out there, right? And then someone hears a podcast or whatever and is like, oh my gosh, we should get this girl a talk show. So what is your butterfly goal? I mean, I think that's the best way that we start leaning into fear is just start doing shit that we never thought imaginable and believing in ourselves beyond reason.
I love it. And I'm also hearing it and seeing you get excited, right? I think there's that element of fun of what excites you. What do you get giddy about? Like the value in play and having fun with it is so important. And one technique that you talk about in your book is visualization, that using visualization, like Andrew said earlier, you can see the pages, you can feel them. So let's get into that because I know that's something Andrew and I have been playing with. A lot of people think it's woo-woo-y. So let's dive into visualization and what you think about it.
Well, people do. People think all kinds of stuff is woo-y and whatever. And you know what? Visualization is so important because what we visualize becomes our reality. And for me, it's that Michelangelo quote that he said, "I saw the angel in the marble, and I carved until I set him free." Now, think about this. Michelangelo was in his 20s when he was commissioned to carve the statue of David. And here he was, not even knowing that he was going to be recognized and celebrated as one of the most brilliant artists of our lifetime, of life on earth, really, in general. And he said, I saw the angel in the marble and I carved until I set it free. I mean, if you want to talk about the power of visualization, it's right there. It took him 3 years to carve that statue. And so many times, I mean, if he would have said there's an angel in that marble, people would have been like, have you lost your damn mind? That is a huge piece of marble. There's not an angel in there. And he saw it and he brought it to life and he made it happen. And that is the power of visualization. And if you're not seeing yourself do big and do great, you are only holding yourself back from who you came to be and your full potential. And so I mean, I use the power of visualization all the time, whether it's me visualizing myself on a stage before I get on it, before, I'm in front of a room of people, like, how am I going to show up? What is my energy going to be? And with the book, I started visualizing, like, what was the book going to look like? What was it going to feel like? What was it going to smell like? Like, how would it look on people's desks? What would these podcasts where we're talking about the book seem like? And you start getting that visualization and it becomes so crystal clear that it becomes your reality. And then you start living it and acting it on a daily basis. And if you aren't visualizing and then you're not reinforcing that visualization with positive affirmations of like, hey, I am worthy. I can do this. My message matters. This is good stuff. Like all of those different things, that's where the magic happens. And no one's going to visualize it for you, and people might think that you have lost your damn mind. And here's the other truth, like what you visualize might end up looking a little different. I mean, I'm guessing that Michelangelo, when he first saw the statue of David in that marble, it probably didn't look exactly like what it ended up as, because our plan B might turn into our plan B, C, D, E. But it all starts with a visualization of what we can truly create in this lifetime.
I love that so much too. I think of like vision boards, and I think of something that I do is, as you're talking to me or as I'm talking to this microphone, and I've said this to Brooke, and it feels kind of weird to say it at first, but I always visualize there's a million people listening to what we're saying. So take it seriously, ask the vulnerable questions, be as open as possible, because you'll connect with more people. Of those million people that are listening, eventually, right now it's like 3,000 a month, but it's like a hell of a lot more than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So it's happening, and I keep thinking that, but then I'm like, well, what's the next level? And I come from a really humble beginning, and so How do you stretch that vision? Like, what's your practice for when you feel like, you know, this is the dream, but I could probably dream bigger. Like,
Got a bigger butterfly.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, how do you stretch that? Like, what's your practice with that?
I mean, I just think it's that just knowing that you're never gonna back to this whole concept of you're never gonna arrive. And you know what, and then I think then you can start asking yourself, what if, and then when that happens, what's next? What's next? What's next? And you know, honestly, like I always thought I would want to write a book. And I always kind of thought, oh, I'll write a book. And then it was after I wrote one book, then the next book came, the children's book came this last year. And actually we just got it yesterday. My mom and I wrote it together. And then, you know, now I'm working on the next book. And I just think, again, you just have to ask what's next? What if? Okay, great. Gosh, I did this. And now, you know, what's the next thing for me to conquer and accomplish? So I just think it's this is just that it's never ending. And like success and love are unlimited in life as long as you're willing to show up and go after them.
Oh, I love that. I think within what you're saying too is trusting. Right? There's a lot of trust in yourself that what you're visualizing, what you want to manifest is possible. And it sounds like you've done this for a while, so you've seen the success in it. But I'm curious, when you first got started, when this was new for you, how did you trust the process? How did you trust that, okay, if I visualize and I affirm and I just keep showing up, something good is going to happen?
That's hard because that you know, this is when you have to believe in yourself beyond reason. And you know, I will tell you, when I started off on this mission to create and live the life I deserve and desire by sharing this message of be who you came to be, people thought I was absolutely nuts. You know, people also thought I was absolutely nuts when I left my corporate job and started a home-based business. I mean, people were like, is she postpartum? Is she depressed? Are the children safe? I mean, people are going to be mean as hell and they will question you every step of the way. And this is when it's so important that you believe in yourself beyond reason. And, you know, when I first started out with this mission of be who you came to be, honestly, I didn't, I had these visualizations of speaking and, you know, getting people together and changing lives. But what was really interesting is the visualization. I could see myself doing it, but I didn't know what the words were. And that's something that just comes with time of, you know, talking about it, sharing it, figuring it out, creating the content. And it's kind of like, you know, you've got good taste, but you just have to keep going over and over and over. And you eventually you figure it out. I mean, I go back to some of my first Facebook lives or whatever I was doing back then, and I watch it and I'm like, oh my God, like, wow, like, but someone loved it, someone believed in it, and there were those people that believed in me. And I just truly believed in this message beyond reason. And if you talk to anyone who believes in themselves beyond reason, it happens. Like they make it happen. And there's going to be naysayers and there's going to be people who don't want you to win. They want you to fail, that are going to think you're crazy. And you can either you can either become their reality and water yourself down and play small in life, or you can be like, I'm going to go all in on me and watch me. Like, I'm going to create and live the life that I deserve and desire. And I don't need your permission to do it or your approval, because it goes back to the music. Like, you don't have to buy my record. Like, I don't really give a shit if you buy my record or not. Like, I'm going to write this record. And then you just start moving from the power of one, of like, hey, if I change one life, if I speak to one person and they tell a person, they tell a person, they tell a person, you know, even to this day, I'll get in on a stage where thousands of people in a room, and I always pray to the power of one, of like, hey, if I can touch one person's life, like that's enough for me. And when you go from that really humble mindset of truly doing it for the right reasons and why you love that, like that's when we change the world for the better.
I love that. And I love too in the book when you talked about actually getting on the game show and then actually winning a lot of money and how you were going back and forth, you know, about, do I have a party for this? Like, are people going to think I'm full of myself and like flaunting my money? And then you were like, actually, the people that really want me to win and care about me, they're going to want to celebrate me and they're going to want to be here. So let's have a smaller party with people that actually care about me winning. And like, that's what they want from me because they truly love me. I think it was really powerful because people's opinions can really water you down. It can really shift you from chasing your dreams.
Yeah, they can. I mean, people don't want you to be big. I mean, I shouldn't say all people, but there's people out there that when you stay small, they don't have to grow, right? They don't have to lean into their fear. And the thing is though, is I think everybody wants to do it. There's just people who are so scared to, or they have been conditioned over time. They've been told no, they have been told you can't, they haven't been loved and supported, and they haven't had someone, and then their false narrative have become these assumed constraints, which are the chains that hold them back from being who they came to be. And so if you play small, it's easy for them to play small. And so I do think that, I mean, we forget so many times that we have our raving fans. We have those people who want to celebrate us and want to love us. And that is so true. After I won $112,000. And it was after I won, I was kind of like, oh my God, like that's actually like a lot of money. Like that's a pretty good amount of money. Now, I will tell you after taxes, it was like 40% of that.
Oh man.
But, I'm like, that's more than a teacher's salary. And so I don't want to say it was shame, but it was kind of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't flaunt this. Maybe I shouldn't celebrate this. Maybe it's going to be too much. Like, what are other people going to think? To the point where my husband was like, well, it is going to be on national TV. Like, and it's so funny. I'll still get messages today when people are like, I'm watching the Game Show Network and I just saw you on a game show. I didn't even know you were on it. Celebrate your success, like toot your own horn. And as women, we need to do this more, and we need to create space for other women to do that. And the more we can celebrate each other and lift each other, like the better the world gets.
100% agree. Love that.
Yeah. And I think it helps with the comparison too, right? I'm in my own lane, you're in your lane. I can celebrate you, and that doesn't dim my light at all. And I think a lot of people, and something I'm learning too with just social media and comparison, and there's always going to be someone above you. There's always going to be someone below you. But the freedom is in the celebration. That's what I'm learning, is lifting everyone else up lifts you up as well.
And you're not in competition with them. I mean, I think it's important that we have people admire, and I think it's important that we have people we mentor. But your journey is your journey, and you're not in competition with them. And there's plenty of room for everyone. I mean, go back to music again, go back to authors, go back to anyone who's created something like really honored their true talent, their true God-given talent to do something incredible. It's not like, they're like, well, there's enough people out there doing it. Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, like country's been done. Like just go hang up your cowboy hat and, move on with life. Like there's always room for more.
I love it. And I think something too you talk about that's really valuable is when you recognize your own talent, which I think sometimes takes some digging. If you've been focusing on everybody else, what everybody else is doing on social media, what everybody's doing on these shows, what every other parent's doing, and you're just emulating, sometimes it's hard to dig into your talents. But you talk about recognize your own and invest in them, up level them, focus on them so that this can be a bigger part of your life. So how have you kind of helped people do that?
So you have to learn how to self-assess so that you can self-actualize and be who you came to be. Nobody cares more about your success than you. And unless you are in a company where someone's constantly telling you what to do, how to do it, let's face it, nobody even really likes that. Like you've got to take control. And so I call this self-assessing to self-actualize, and using a clear mirror to self-assess. And it's that, hey, I can see myself for what I am. I'm not going to be concerned with anyone else and what they're doing, but I'm really going to stay focused on me. And I tell this funny story about how there's a baseball story in the book. I tell this other story about how I taught my son Jack to self-assess when he was a really little kid. And if you guys have little kids, you know that they bring home a ton of like, I quote, arts and crafts and arts from school. And I mean, it's a lot. And so one day, I think he was in probably like first grade, and he came and like emptied his backpack, and it was just all this like arts and crafts and all this stuff. And I looked through it all, and then I threw it in the trash. And he comes in and he's like, he opens the trash up. He's like, did you throw all of this away? And I mean, he was totally like heartbroken. I was like, oh, I'm covered. Okay. I was like, oh, buddy, I'm sorry. You just left it on the kitchen counter. I thought you just, wanted me to look through it. And so we took this, like I took this as a learning experience for him to self-assess. I'm like, well, let's go through it. I'm like, here's the thing. I'm like, we can't keep every, piece of art and craft that you do. I'm like, so first off, let's make a rule that if it's not art, like if it's just a craft with like something glued to it, like let's not keep that. But let's talk about the art. And so I start asking him, like, tell me about this. Are you proud of this? Is this your best work? Mm-hmm. What could have you done differently? If you could redo it, like what would you do? Do you love it? Do you think that it's refrigerator worthy? Like, would you want to take down the one that you have up, to put this one up? And it was never about like, well, tell me what John did in his project. Like, was yours as good as him? It was really this focus on Jack, and like, was he proud of it? Did he think it was his best work? What would he do different? And you got to start looking at your life through that same lens of like, hey, what did I do that was good? I'm going to celebrate that. What do I want to change? And am I proud of it? Like, you know, if you're proud of it or not. And if you're proud of it, celebrate that. And so I think we can all learn how to self-assess and understand like what are our opportunities for improvement? Where do we need to lean in? And you know, where can we really up level ourselves and our lives by truly being transparent and clear about our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, all that goes into that.
I love that. I love that depiction too, because man, you do get a lot of stuff from school. Love you, teachers. Thank you, but I hide
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, just start asking, are you proud of it? You know, like
Yeah.
even to this day, like if you know, we want my boys are teenagers now, and you know, we really want them to be A and B students, and you know, if they come in with a bad grade, you know, it's like, are you proud of that? Like, was that your best work? They know, like, they're not gonna be like, yeah, it was my best. And I'm like, really? That's your best? And, you know, they're like, well, the whole class did this. I'm like, I don't care about the rest of the class. I'm talking about you. And, you know, when we come from that lens and of like, is it my best work? Could I have done better? And am I proud of it? And that's a great way to go through life.
I feel like you can apply that to anything too.
Well, and two, it's an objective perspective. Like you asking him these questions, I keep thinking that's the value of a coach, right? Of having someone, a mentor, like you said earlier, who is going to hold space for you to reflect, to ask yourself these hard questions, because it takes a lot to level up and to take the time out for you. I think what you pay for, you pay attention so to hire someone that will help you, will hold your hand, will guide you. There is so much power in that.
Well, Tara, thank you so much for sitting down. Everything you say can apply to, I literally feel like anybody at any stage in their life. You can reinvent yourself. You can level up. You can dig into who you are. And your book is a great tool. And again, like you said, it's so beautiful. There's so many quotes in it. You could just have it sitting here, open it up, and there's a beautiful quote sitting right here. Fulfilling relationships, work, and memories are unshakable. Love never ends. Like if I read that midday,
little pump up.
Yes.
And also, a lot of the moms listening, getting your new children's book. So talk to us about that book. You touched on it a little, but I want to tell our listeners more about.
So the book is called Be Who You Came to Be, but it's BEE. So Be Who You Came to Be, and it's about a little bee, a little bee named Phoebe. And Phoebe goes on a journey of personal discovery through meeting with the queen bee, who sends her on a journey where she meets three friends along the way, and she's trying to discover, you know, who is she and what are her strengths and what are her talents. And as much as she tries to be like the other bees, she's just not like them. But something pretty magical happens on her journey as she discovers what her gifts are. So it's a darling book for children to really give them space to say like, hey, if baseball's not your thing, that's cool. Like if you're not, you know, meant to play an instrument, that's okay too. Like find out who you are and really focus on what you love and what brings you joy. And so it is a darling book. I had always wanted to make my book into a children's book. And I didn't really know like what went into a good children's book. So guess who I enlisted? My mom, she's retired, an early childhood educator. And at 72, she had always wanted to write a children's book her entire life. And so there's a butterfly goal that she achieved at age 72 out of retirement. And we wrote this book together, and we just couldn't be more thrilled to help youth. And, you know, to start children young, to honoring their authenticity and giving others the space to do the same. So we're really proud of the book, and it is so cute. It's very colorful, and it actually also comes with a little sticker page and a map, because what kids don't love stickers, and a fun little map to go along with the story.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I have a 4-year-old and I can just see her loving that. She's obsessed with stickers too.
But what a good message to instill to children young. Like this isn't what they're getting exposed to. Or at least when I was a child.
And they compare themselves already, like very young. Like I have 10, 7, and 4. They all do it. They're all comparing. And so to get them started young, that you don't even have to have people, like it's okay for people not to like you. It's okay for you to have different strengths. It's okay for you to dig into what yours are. I love that. And so where can everybody find you and find your books?
Yeah, so the best place is just on my website, www.tararenze.com. And there's a book, there's the shop with books. There's some other fun things in the gift shop of just like passions that I love. There's free wallpapers that you can download for your phone, just all kinds of stuff. So that is definitely the best way to find me if you're interested in buying books. And then I would love for you to follow me on Instagram at Tara Renze. I try to give fun behind the scenes and just an honest, real, vulnerable look at my life and what I'm up to. So those are really the best places to find me. And then you guys, if you want, and you buy the book on my website, so you can also get it on Amazon. But I will tell you, you're not going to get the pretty gold cover, the gold foil hardcover book that makes the great coffee table book, which was one of the things I wrote this book for. Was it like, hey, leave it out those days where you're like not on your game, you're not feeling it, pick up the book, read a couple quotes. The chapters are small, they're meant to be snappy. Most of us don't have time to sit down for multiple hours a day and read, but we can take little nuggets in, small doses. So grab it on my website, and if you use code Gold Ivy, you can get $5 off, which will pay for your shipping.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you.
We cannot recommend it enough. Children's book, if you're a mama, or all the other goodies. So many fun things to look at. And Tara, thank you again. We are so grateful for your time. We know you're so busy. You are doing amazing things. And we would love for you to share your 3 gold stars with our listeners.
One of them is it's only a mistake if it happens twice. The first time is a lesson that you needed to learn, which is just there's your permission slip to try some new things and know that you're probably going to fail. It might not work out, but you needed to learn the lesson and you get to up level and go to the next stage. So that would be the first one. Gosh, I think, obviously be who you came to be is what I live my life by. I tell it to my kids every day. I tell it to myself, it's just it's so much empowerment of like, hey, be who I came to be. Like all the gifts and talents, are here. I just have to unleash them on the universe and on the world. And then, the final thing that I always tell myself is it not working out always works out. And it's how I've gotten through so much disappointment in life when things didn't go the way I thought. Things, just you feel like, oh, is this the dead end? Is this it? Like the worst thing is never the last thing. And I can't think back to one time in my life where it not working out didn't end up working out. And so I think that again, it's part of the waves of life, just going with the flow and knowing that it not working out, guess what? It really always does work out.
I love that. I feel like you're so much like the message of hope. Like there's always more from you can give to the world, or that you can find within. Hope that you made a mistake, you failed, like it's going to be okay. Like it's not the end. I love that. It's beautiful. All right. Next up is Unleashing Ivy. 3 surprise questions. Tara, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Tara, what do you think is one of your biggest contributors to you being such a successful businesswoman?
I think what I found so much the reason I've met with success in life is I truly do things that I love and that I'm passionate about. And I've always followed my heart. I've given myself permission to reinvent myself and to focus on those fulfilling things. And I think that that's why I've met, with so much success. And people have sometimes said like, oh my gosh, everything you do, you just do it so well. And I'm just like, well, everything I do is because I'm passionate about it and I love it. And I'm not going to, take a job to take a job or go do something to just do something. And I think that, even if I was in a situation where I had to go work a 9-to-5 job because that's what I needed to do to survive in the world, I would focus on what's fulfilling about it and how I can shine my light in any given situation. And I think that, I was talking to a gal just the other day who was telling me that she works at a nursing home part-time. And I said, what do you do there? And she said, well, I wipe butts and I put people to bed. And I was like, oh gosh. And she said, honestly, like it's one of the most fulfilling jobs I've ever had because I'm here helping these people at the end of their life feel safe, feel comfortable, feel loved. And I'm providing them with something that might be embarrassing for some people, and I just make it, comfortable for them. And I thought to myself, like, wow, that is taking like any situation and shining your light into it and really coming from this place of, what's fulfilling and what do you love?
That's a great answer.
Well, and too, like you think of success as money, right? And I think something's tricky about that. You see someone successful, lots of money, following or whatever. And I think that is always the secret. It's like people figured out what sets them on fire, so they kick ass at it. Like, you're not half-assing anything you're doing because you love it. So if it doesn't light you up, you might make money from it, but you're probably going to burn out.
Well, and you're also giving back, right? I think that's the ticket, is it? It's more than you. It's about that one, like you said earlier.
100%.
I love it. Okay, my question is about you being an emotional intelligence practitioner. So I'm curious how this education has played into your personal and professional life.
I got really curious about emotional intelligence right out of college when I was in the workforce, and it really just emerged kind of in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I went to the workforce in the early 2000s, and it was, hey, EQ plays such a big role in your overall success and your overall happiness. And so I started just studying emotional intelligence and what it is. And really, it's the notion that we can understand our thoughts and we can understand our emotions, and we can also, understand other people's emotion and positively influence them in life. And so, for me, it's really just been this notion of like, hey, you're not your thoughts, right? I mean, I think all of us have so many thoughts on a daily basis of self-doubt, of wondering, of all these things. But here's the secret: we get to choose how we show up in life. And even when you're having a bad day, you can choose to show up in a good day. My husband and I, people are like, "Oh my gosh, you guys just seem like the happiest couple." I'm like, "Well, we've had plenty of times of not great, but we're never going to show up like in a fight somewhere. We're never going to show up and bring any emotional baggage and garbage to anyone else." Like, and so I think that's really been why I've been so curious about EQ, and it's ultimately why I went and got certified in it, is because I believe it's how we can unlock who we came to be in life. Is that, hey, we all have bad days. We all have emotions. We all have things that work in our favor. We all have self-sabotaging beliefs, but you have to be mentally fit to know that you are not your thoughts, and you get to choose how to show up, and you get to design, create on and live that life that you deserve and desire, by being who you came to be, which ultimately comes down to heightening your emotional and positive intelligence.
God, you're such a boss. I just feel like you have such standards for your life, which is amazing. Like, everything you say is so powerful. Like, watching you on YouTube or following you, everything you say, like, you mean it. Like again, you're not here to half-ass anything. I feel like it's so powerful the way that you show up in marriage, as a mom, as a businesswoman. Like, of course you've had success because you're a freaking boss. I love it.
Oh, well, just so you know, if we would have been doing this podcast 7 years ago, I probably wouldn't have been nearly as eloquent. I wouldn't have had it all figured out. I just think, I think that's the other thing with women. It's like we gain so much confidence in who we are and comfort with our authenticity the older that we get. And, I turned 46 in a week. And sometimes I think, oh my God, how in the hell am I 46 years old? I can't even believe it. But with all that age comes just so much perspective and the willingness to stand in who we are and who we came to be. So,
speaking of age, our last question is, if you could go back and tell your younger self something, what would you tell her?
I get this question a lot, and I don't think I ever have the right answer for it. I think that I would probably just go back to, I didn't get the be who you came to be note until I was 30 years old. And even when I got it, I didn't realize that that note was actually written for me until I started thinking about it and talking about it and sharing it and started raising a child and thinking about who they came to be, and then going through this whole personal, journey of self-discovery and reinvention. And so I would have loved to know that when I was 18 and going into college and, trying to figure out what my major was going to be and navigate all that. I would have loved to know that when, I was 13 and my parents got divorced and I had to move to a new school and I didn't have any friends and nobody liked me and people were mean to me, and it would just be like, hey, be who you came to be. Like, you're not going to be for everyone. That's okay. And I do feel like it's such a powerful statement. I mean, I wish that I would have had that note, when I was thinking about my career before I had my second child, and, really understanding like, gosh, who I was isn't who I am today. And it really took living with that note for years for me to truly unlock the power of that sentence and to explain it to other people. I sat on the note for 7 years before I ever did anything about it, just trying to think about it and figure it out and start living it. So, I tell my kids every day, be who you came to be, shine your light, not only for yourself, but for others. It's just a sentence of permission, of confidence to own it and to create it, and to love ourselves for who we are. So, as cliche as it might sound, I would definitely tell myself, be who you came to be.
Everyone has a light within them, right? And it's finding it, it's owning it, it's living by it. And I think that's where the magic happens, is when you chase that light, because there's a lot of darkness around us. And to choose a light, I think the light always wins. And that's what helps us and why everyone's listening to this podcast, right? Because they want that light. And a lot of times with Ivy Unleashed, there's power in the ivy, right? Gold, lessons grow in hard places. And so finding that light, I think it does take age and it takes time, because you have to go through things in life to realize what really does light you up and those learning lessons throughout it.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing those lessons. I think it's one thing to learn them and sit with them, but I think it's another to stand on a stage and deliver a powerful message, or say yes to a podcast, or say yes to putting your thoughts and fears and everything into a book. So thank you for listening to that and listening to those callings and doing something about it, because you are lighting up our podcast and the world with your books and your speeches. So thank you.
Oh, well, friends, I am so glad to have you in my life. I am honored that you wanted me to come on the podcast and share my message and hopefully inspire some people to stop playing small and to go all in on themselves and to be who they came to be. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we know that you love quotes. We love quotes. And we leave our listeners with a quote every episode, a piece of gold. So will you please share yours?
I mean, I just keep going back to the same quotes I keep telling you, over and over and over. But I guess, the one thing I'll just remind everyone of is that you are enough. And I think sometimes we just feel like we're not, and we feel like we're not deserving of joy, of happiness, of love. We feel like we're not giving in all the right places and that we're falling short. And I just want you to know that you are loved and you are seen and you are enough. And you have to remind yourself that every single day.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.